What is up? It is the Figure Hunter, and we're going to talk about an initial intake or initial take on the new Polar Grit X2 Pro. The newest, highest level watch from the Polar lineup at a whopping $750 or $870, depending on the model variant you choose. That is a lot of money, and we're going to talk about the ins and outs of what I think about it just out of the gate, the first 24 hours. Look at the design. We're going to look at how it performed in a workout and some of just the overall biometric things that you could see from a night's sleep, from exercise, training load, all those types of things. So basically, we're going to look at the design. We're going to look at how it handles recovery and wellness. We're going to look at how it handles training and training readiness. So looking at the design, I think this is an awesome looking watch. I think overall, just the bezel, you know, when I saw it on the initial reviews from other reviewers, I thought it looked a lot like the Amazfit T-Rex Ultra, which is a metal casing, a very similar sort of size and design. But I think this just looks really, really fantastic, and I think it's got a nice weight and nice feel to it. It's definitely a heavier watch, and it's definitely a bigger watch at 48.5, almost 49 millimeters wide. But one thing that's unique about it is this big, bright, brilliant screen. So the AMOLED screen is glorious. I mean, it is brilliant. It's very bright, and I don't know the nits on it as far as the actual literal brightness, but the fact that it's a 1.4 inch screen on a 48.7 millimeter case makes it a better screen to case size ratio than the Garmin family. So on the Garmin Epic series. Garmin Epic series, if you went with smaller, you get 1.3. If you went with the biggest variant, you'd get 1.4, but it'd be a 51 millimeter case. But overall, everything, you know, in simple about the design, the watch band, I like even, you know, like the way the watch band is, it's just really like a nice watch band. It down to the buckle. The buckle is actually kind of a nice buckle because it's got like a, I don't know, sort of has like a military look to it. And it comes with two different lengths. So I actually am using the shorter length buckle because that's just fine. The longer length is long. And the fact that they have, you know, two options in there is great. But just the overall design and feel. And then on top of it, you know, the overall processing of the screens and layout, like the processor speed is clean. It's snappy. It's like it works, and that's not something I've ever really said about Polar. Most times with Polar products, it's like a little choppy, a little laggy, or a very laggy in some instances. This doesn't feel that way. This feels great, and so far, just, you know, the experience, they've really gotten the processor speed to catch up with the screen quality or the programming detail. So overall, it's just I would say a fantastic design. When you look at what you have available to you in training readiness, wellness, recovery, things like that, you can see some things on the watch, and the way they do it is through glances or through tiles, and you can scan back and forth, you can, you know, rotate through, you can do different things to see different bits of information as you scroll across different parts of, like, you know, different glances, different widgets of detail. So that's one way that you can get the information, and then you can dive into the app. So when you look at the app, you have the main landing page, and the main landing page gives you like a summary of the day so far or the last night's sleep. So if we just focus on wellness and recovery. So let's focus on the nightly recharge, which is made up of two primary parts. We've all seen this. This is one thing that's weird about this, is that it still holds up. Polar's been doing this for, I don't know, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, nightly recharge, which is a combination of the autonomic nervous system rejuvenation projection. Say that all in one sentence. It's cobweb. And that takes into account like beat to beat intervals, as well as your HRV and temperature, breathing rate, things like that. So that takes into account some cool things, which is really primary information. So they've been taking HRV measurements, you know, for a long time, and beat to beat heart rate measurements for a long time. So that's really quality analysis, and it gives you one score in the autonomic nervous system side of the table, and then it gives you a sleep score, and the sleep score takes into account a multiple of different things when it comes to how well you slept, and the amount of time you slept, and the continuity and the movement, things like that. So it combines those two to one rejuvenation score, one recovery score. And that's actually really awesome. In today's world, it's still a really well thought out combination of information. The fact that you're, one side of the house, the autonomic nervous system rejuvenation and the scores that relate to it lead to one score, 1/2. And then the sleep functionality leads to 1/2 of the scores. So in general, this is still a fantastic solution. The downside is that on the autonomic nervous system rejuvenation, you only have a 4-hour window. So it basically, once it sees you've gone to sleep, an hour later, it starts tracking for 4 hours. So if you had a disturbance in that 4 hours, it would pick up that disturbance, and it would be in big bold letters, and it would not necessarily reflect an exact, detail with regard to, wouldn't exactly reflect your night's sleep, because it just was a disturbance in that happened to be 4-hour window, even if you maybe got 8 hours of sleep. So that's the recovery side. And then you have the training side. So we have to look at a few things in training, but the first thing is how it held up in the first workout, how it tracked the heart rate accuracy in the first workout. And unfortunately, it was really, really bad, really abysmal. So the heart rate results were not anything like what was compared on a chest strap. I did a workout where it was sort of an active recovery day where I rotated across 3 different machines in the gym. I did rowing, I did ski erg, and then I did just bike erg, just, stationary bike. So in those motions, the rower has some wrist flex, the ski erg has definite wrist flex, and the bike has no wrist flex. So it was wildly all over the place. I've never seen it's crazy, but I'd say this might be the worst heart rate comparison I've ever seen, like in a long time, on a new device that costs a lot of money. So we're gonna have to continue to track that. It can connect to a chest strap, so there's really no issues with it functionally being able to get accurate information. You just cannot use the heart rate sensor built on the watch, because this is a not challenging workout and it did horrific. So that is a major bummer out of the gate, because I thought they had improved some of these things, and it's just the worst I've seen. And so that was the heart rate accuracy on the first. So we'll have to test that more. I'll test it across a series of workouts, but in general, what it does with the information I find really useful. And it's another funny thing about Polar. Polar's been doing this cardio load score for 5 years. Again, a long time. This comparison of how was the last 7 days of training comparing to the last 28 days. And mine's going to be through the roof, because I only started re-wearing a Polar watch for the last week and a half. So it went from no training to an hour and a half a day. So it's like, you are overtraining, but it's cool to see in some ways how it handles information, because it sees that I'm doing a lot more recently than I have in the past averages. But this cardio load score is now a primary tenet in a bunch of watches. Garmin now has it, and I do think it is a really useful, simple metric to track your recovery, your training load, and really useful in general. And so I really like it, and I think they've done a great job with it. They've done a great job at, having that for a long period of time. So hats off to them. Plus, I really do like, over the long haul, how you can see your training load over time and your overall, your blue line, your health, your fitness level over a long period of time. They have other things built in here, you could wear a chest strap and do an orthostatic test for a period of time. You can do all these different tests. You can do a jumping test to see how recovered your legs are. You can do a walking fitness test. You can do a running VO2 max test, which just basically you run until you pass out. That doesn't sound like any fun. So they have a lot of different functions. They have breathing functions in here. and it now has a temperature sensor for nighttime temperature checking. So we'll see how that works over time, because the previous watches I was wearing didn't have that. It has FuelWise, which basically tells you what the impact was, how much like carbs, fats, proteins you burned in that workout, sweat loss estimates. So they do some other things, but those are the primary things. How does it function as a watch? How does it handle training load? And how does it handle recovery? And it does those things, other than like a complete and total failure on heart rate accuracy for the workout. It does the tenets of those things still really well. On the flip side, it's still really one-dimensional. They do it just by looking at, like, it's real just simple and clean. But, and all the other product manufacturers have like multiple different metrics you could look at for some of this information. But Polar still does these two basic things really well, and how they do it still holds up in today's world. So that's the initial review for the new Polar Grit X2 Pro. We're going to continue to test it for days and days and see how it holds up, and bring up any thoughts, feelings, and concerns otherwise, and compare it to other products on the market. So Fit Gear Hunter, thanks so much for watching.